I used to be a teacher at TOEFL. Now I'm doing my master program at Arizona State University. And I believe that most of you are going to be my Cambodian fellows, so I'm going to stay in Cambodian a little bit. So stay in the And I guess we could actually start our interview.
And my name is Alan Klein. I'm an instructor at the University of British Columbia's English Language Institute in Vancouver. And so our top, and I was a lecturer at IFL and taught at ACE in Cambodia. Okay, and our topic today is called Beyond the TOEFL Score, Succeeding at North American Universities. Okay, let's start. So you received a scholarship to go to Arizona State University. Right. You were one of my students at IFL.
Yeah.
How well prepared did you feel about going to the United States to study at university?
Well, before I left Cambodia, I thought kind of I did well on my TOEFL test. I was kind of good student back at university, and best of all, I was a teacher before I came here at IFL. So I was thinking that I would be well prepared for that. But when I first arrived here, I found it to be really, really hard. I think for one thing that I can tell is the first few weeks that I arrived, the most difficult part is the discussion in the classroom. I couldn't participate in that much because what I used to do back in the country is at least the teacher will cover the content, at least some part at the beginning, and then you can expand or include the student in the discussion. But it's kind of different in here because most teachers will not cover the material in the classroom. So they basically assume that you understand what you read before, and then they will just come to class and expand the topics and include you into the discussion. So that's kind of hard for me.
Okay. And so do you think that your American classmates were accustomed to that?
I think, yeah, they were prepared for that. I actually found them to be very active and, they are really good in terms of talking, challenging each other's idea, bringing up new ideas. That's really interesting. Yeah.
Okay, that was good. So let's ask about some specifics. First thing, so you're in university. Tell me about what it was like, the amount of work that your teachers were expecting from you.
Okay, so for the last 2 semesters, I think the amount of work wasn't that much, But what actually hard for me was the textbook and the teacher that you were studying with. So some textbook, I think usually people will read about, in my class people will read about 100 pages within a week. And within a semester we might do about 6 papers, and 3 presentations.
Now that's for 3 classes?
Yeah, that's for 3 classes within a semester.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not the amount, it's not the number of pages that make it hard for an international student. What makes it hard is the teacher and the textbook itself. For example, like for the first semester when I came to Arizona State University, I had one professor. She was really good in terms of researcher. She was pretty well known, but the textbook itself was just so difficult. I remember I spent about like 3 hours on 20 pages, while all the subject I spent only about 1 hour on 20 pages. Basically, I think what made me difficult at that time was the material assumes that the student understand a lot of background information. And I remember that was about discourse analysis. And in contrary, I think I, as well as our students, not only international students, but the American students themselves, do not have any background in that subject. So it took us just so much time to understand that subject, plus the teacher herself, she doesn't really understand what we were doing. So she kind of not going into detail and explaining the basic concept. So I think basically what made me difficult was the teacher themselves and the textbook. It's not the amount of work.
Okay. So the quality of the teaching.
Yeah, the quality of the teaching.
And the quality of the explanation.
The quality of the textbook itself.
Okay, that's interesting. They don't really think about the quality. Okay, one of the things that American and Canadian teachers really want is they want students to participate. You can't just sit in class and be quiet.
You're right.
So what was that like when you were when you arrived at Arizona State?
You mean in terms of speaking out?
Yeah.
I think that probably like I just assume, but I assume that I as well as the other international student that just arrived in the state for the first time, we were just too conscious about our question and too careful about what we were speaking in the classroom. That sometime I had a question and then I was always thinking about it to make sure that my question is really sound and is really a good question, and then the teacher went far away and I just afraid to go back. Well,
what do you mean by went far away?
You know, sometimes like you take some time to actually consider your question and then the teacher just move from that point to another point, so you miss it.
Yeah.
Well, my American counterpart, they were pretty good in terms of like speaking out. They just don't care about what type of question they have, no matter how weird it is. They just, whatever comes to their mind, just speak it out. And we find that a little bit hard. I mean, I as well as my friend, the international student friend, we kind of find that a little bit hard to actually have any question pop up and then ask that immediately.
So I just want to go back. You're saying that Americans, so what you're saying is that you and your other international students were very concerned about the quality of your question.
I think, yeah,
that you didn't have that impression about the Americans.
We just want to make sure that the question we ask are really good questions.
But the Americans,
they just don't care.
They didn't care.
You know, but sometimes turn out to be good questions, sometimes turn out to be weird questions. But nobody cared in the classroom.
Okay, so let's talk about academic interaction with other students outside of class, not social, like going for a drink. What surprised you about that?
I guess like when we have a difficult in the classroom, for example, like last semester we had a difficult time with the subject called discourse analysis. Not only an international student, it was surprised that an American student also found that to be difficult. And then I approached some of the students and we had a group discussion, and then we also had some American friends to be part of the group. And then what surprised me most was that they speak a lot in the classroom, and when we actually came up with the discussion, I learned that they just know much as I know. You know,
so they didn't have any more, they didn't have any special knowledge.
Those they speak much in the classroom, but they don't seem to actually know much more than me necessarily. And I don't know much more than any other personnel, you know. So some people are quiet, especially international students, but they know much as an American, much as I know too.
What kind of contact did you have with students outside of class?
Especially before the examination, we meet at least like 1 or 2 times to discuss what we might think is going to appear and clarify any point that we're not sure about the content.
So you had a study group?
Yeah, we have a study group, really.
Okay, I want to go back to a topic you mentioned before. You used the word soft skill.
Yeah.
And can you define what a soft skill compared to a hard skill like a TOEFL score?
Alright, so what I see is at American University is, because in the country, in Cambodian, things like, you know, your TOEFL score, you know, your examination are just really important in your academic success. But what I feel in America is more important is your soft skill. That's how you show how competent you are, how much you understand about the lesson by speaking up, you know, by speaking out in the classroom, doing your critical paper. Yeah, so that are more important than the actual examination, because I feel like American teachers are more personal, so they can actually override, you know, the scoring system. So they can decide whether you deserve B or A, and they can disregard all those written examination.
So you're saying teachers put a higher value on soft skills than possibly
so that's what I feel in America, especially at my university.
Look, Kanyure, assessment is a really big issue because it always drives students crazy.
Yeah.
So what have you seen different from being in Cambodia?
I think it feels like the system in Cambodia, the educational system is more standardized and more formal, while American one is informal and more personal, I guess, which is better and bad, you know, sometimes, but not